Okay, can everybody hear me now? Any thumbs up? Okay, good. Yeah, it wasn't muted. What happened was I recently hooked up a new mic to my computer and I didn't have it selected. Whoops-a-daisy. So yeah, and they change. Of course, I do that, and they change the layout here on where I'm streaming. So yeah, it should be. Hopefully, you hear this tapping. Hopefully, give me thumbs up if you heard that tapping. Try not to be too loud. I don't want to hurt people's computers. So yeah, got my mic set up here. Okay. Hello, everybody. Let's restart that. Hi, everybody. I am Jarrett Ross, the Genie Vlogger, and welcome to another Genie Vlogger live stream. Happy Friday, everybody. Happy Friday to everybody. And for those of you who might be in Saturday, if it's, I guess who would be in Saturday? Whoever's 8 hours ahead of me, which, yeah, I guess that would be getting into Asia and all that. So either way, hello, everyone. Hope you're having a good day so far. I see a whole bunch of people in here. I put a poll up for everybody, if you haven't already seen it, asking, have you used the new matches by cluster tool from Ancestry? My latest video that I just released the other day is about that. So if you haven't checked it out, be sure to check that out. Lots of other videos on the topic. It's been, big topic. And we'll probably talk a little bit about it today, but obviously we'll just kind of be chatting about things as usual. So if you have questions and things like that, post it in the chat. I'll try to answer them all. Can't guarantee I'll answer them all, but I do guarantee that if you do a super chat sticker or whatever, I guarantee I'll answer all of those as well. I highly appreciate any of the super chats and super stickers. They really help support me in being able to continue to do this. But I also have a special thing today where if, where is it? It's like the goal. Yeah, here it is, the goal. So if we get 5 super chats that are at least equivalent to $2 USD, then I will show a special video that's from Roots Tech of this past year, but it's got dozens of other genealogists and a lot of well-known genealogists. So it'd be a fun little video to show if we reach that. So all of that fun stuff going on. And then I guess one last thing of housekeeping stuff to say. If anyone is looking to get consultations, they need help in doing their research, or maybe they just want a second pair of eyes from a professional genealogist, I have consultations available. So email me. And I'm also taking on projects very selectively, but I am taking on research projects. So, okay, with all that out of the way, I'm going to just kind of do a quick clicking through hellos because I already see we've got a lot going on because apparently I was on the wrong mic and missed a lot. But yeah, thank you everybody for being here. And I'm just going to kind of keep going through until I see something. Oh yeah, here we go. The no sounds. Thank you everybody for letting me know. Yeah. Yes. It big L, big L for me on that. Yeah, I did notice. So, okay. But yeah, hellos from everybody. Oh, funny. Yeah, you finally my mic comes on and then you get an ad, which is weird. Why is it putting an ad in right after I start? That's weird. Okay. Oh, my mic is echoey. Ooh, that's not good. Hopefully that's not continuing. If I have issues with my mic, please let me know. Because like I said, I just set it up. It should be fine, I think. I tested it earlier, but that was also in a different program than where I am. Yeah, Match by ProTools isn't showing. Been a Pro Tools subscriber for a year. Yeah, in the video I said that that everyone that has Pro Tools would have access to it, and I was wrong about that. I don't know where it was, but basically I think I saw somewhere on one of the Facebook groups someone saying, "Oh yeah, it's rolled out to everybody," and I guess shouldn't have just taken that as truth, but I saw that and it just clicked in my mind like, okay, it's rolled out to everybody. Because I thought I was like one of the last ones to get it because I think it was about a week and a half, maybe even 2 weeks from when I saw the first people posting about finally having access until I actually got access, which I thought was odd because it's like, as for a profile like mine, I would think that they would like have it like marked like, hey, we want to give this guy the beta access too. So, but I don't know, maybe I need to talk to some of my friends in Ancestry about that. But yeah, for anyone who hasn't had Pro Tools accessible to them yet, say something in the chat because I'm kind of curious how many people. So yeah, new Hallmark Christmas movie in July. Movie ad is real. Oh, okay. It was a Christmas movie in July ad. That's funny. Yeah, it's always got to be something when you're doing live streams and Zoom calls and all that. Something's got to go funky, especially the mics. So yeah, just after 9 p.m. in Ireland. Okay, that's what I thought because I always know it's 5 hours ahead for the UK, except for when it goes from daylight savings time here, and it doesn't change there. And then it's 6 hours ahead for Amsterdam, I know that, and then 7 hours ahead in Israel, and then the next I know is I think like Australia. It's like 13 hours ahead from me. The East Coast, West Coast of Australia. I don't know. I'm probably wrong on that, but about that. So, not enough matches to cluster. Yeah, not enough. That's one thing with the new tool from Ancestry is that the stipulations that they've put on creating those clusters, which they haven't told us everything they're doing, obviously, just a little bit of it. It's definitely making it so it's very hard to create clusters for a lot of people. Which, for a lot, I think they're surprised because Ancestry, they have so many matches. And then it's like, what? You didn't get enough? But it's just because the parameters they set are so limited. And then obviously other things on the back end, which I will talk about. One thing that EJ Blum told me the other day after I did my video, which basically was something very interesting about his auto cluster and what he thinks might be causing everyone to get different clusters every time they run a cluster for the same person, which was something I talked about in the video, and it's been kind of an issue. But basically, I guess I'll just get into it. He said it's what's called seeding. So I guess the seed, the match that it starts with to start doing the clustering, that will affect what the results are. And he had issues. He said he had issues with that when he first started doing his auto cluster. But then I guess eventually he did some sort of thing with the coding where it set the seed or something like that. So I guess it like made it where once you ran it the first time, then every time you ran it for that same profile afterwards, it would use the same match as a seed. Now, he didn't go super in depth, and this was obviously way above my knowledge because I am not a developer into coding or anything like that. But maybe if anyone in chat knows a little bit more about that, but I think it makes sense that if you're starting with a different match as your first match to start the comparison of everybody, that could change how certain things are put together. So yeah, a lot of back end stuff that I really don't know. So 4 p.m. Connecticut time. Yeah, same here because I'm on the East Coast. And actually, I was surprised to see recently how far the Eastern time zone goes out west, because I'm going up to Ohio and Indiana in a few weeks. Speaking of which, Jewish Genealogy Conference in Fort Wayne, Indiana. So if anyone wants to go check out a genealogy conference, and especially if you want to meet me, I'll be at the conference. So definitely go or look into it, especially for anyone in the Midwest that might be within like a couple hours drive or something. Probably really worthwhile, especially if you've never checked out a genealogy conference. Highly recommend it. But anyway, I'm going to be going up there for the conference, and I was trying to figure out like, okay, well, time wise, I'm driving up there. So, when will I be crossing the, Eastern time zone border? And I don't think I do. Like, I think where I am in Fort Wayne, Indiana, like not all of Indiana is in the same time zone, but where Fort Wayne is, I think that is, Fort Wayne, Indiana time zone. Yeah, it's Eastern time zone. So it's like I'll be going to right on the edge. So that's going to be really interesting because like heading out west where it's going to like the time is the same that far. I just imagine the sun's got to be setting there at like what, like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night or something. I don't know. So, I used to live in the Midwest when I was younger, but I lived in Illinois, and that was, Central Time Zone. So, yeah. Yeah, needed. Yeah, I've been, like I say in the video, I've been pretty happy with the tool. So far. Cluster ProTools found, but only shows 5 people in a single cluster that are all first cousins. The first cousin once removed, that are all known. I have thousands of matches. This cluster tool sucks. Yeah, I would say for me, maybe I've been a bit political about it in the way that I've worded it, but I wouldn't necessarily say it sucks. I think it's a good start. It's the indication that they're doing something that is making viable clusters. It's not necessarily going to be as helpful for a lot of people, like many in this stream who do a lot of research already. So it's basically going to identify a lot of stuff that you probably have already identified. But having the ability to look at like 30, 40 different cluster results, because I manage so many profiles, I was happy to see so many that did have clusters, which I hadn't identified previously. Some clusters where I had identified them as a cluster, but never figured out how they connected. So it was kind of redoing a lot of work I had done, but there still were some instances of clusters that actually gave new leads, including some for my Jewish profiles, which I talk about one of those in the video. So I definitely understand why a lot of people are saying something like this, and I've seen a lot of people saying that. And I think that's largely just coming from, a crowd where, it's been hyped up for us. And so as hardcore genealogists, that's our hope, is we get this new tool and it gives us something new that we're like, awesome, we can work on this. And it's really disappointing, obviously, for some more than others, when you don't get that. So, I think for a lot of profiles, I certainly would say I'm slightly disappointed that it didn't do better. But for everything I've seen, I think it's a great start. I think as we see the iterations go along, if they don't improve it, especially once the custom option comes out where we can adjust the centimorgan amounts, or the amount of, shared DNA, for those who might not know what centimorgan means. But once we have the ability to adjust those, then I think I'm going to expect a lot more from it. So at this point, I think that's part of it. It's almost like, watching a toddler walk for the first time and being like, what, he can't run? So it's like, that's kind of the way I view it, is it's like, okay, well, he's just starting to walk, but, let's give him a couple of years. And then if he can't run, then okay, then we got issues, right? I don't know how long it takes for toddlers to develop. So it's probably not a couple of years from walking to running, but still, hopefully that makes sense. So, all right, a bunch of hellos to everybody. Got a quick question. How can I get more records on Ancestry? Well, I wouldn't even call it getting more records on Ancestry as much as just figuring out how to find more records beyond Ancestry. I think that's a common issue with a lot of people that start with or just getting started with genealogy. You really rely on these databases like Ancestry or Family Search or MyHeritage, which make it really easy to find the records. And then as soon as you hit the wall on that, then you're like, well, where do I go from here? So if you want to stay with, you probably can stay within the Ancestry world and find a lot. But it's best to also start looking into what else might be out there that isn't easily accessible online. So it'll depend on where your ancestry is from as well. So, just to go over some stuff that might be helpful ancestry wise. I'm going to share my screen now. Yeah. Okay. So there we go. So sharing my screen, and what I've pulled up, this is the card catalog. So all you do is go under search, go to card catalog. And basically this shows you all of the record collections that they have. And basically whatever you're searching for, just start clicking down and figuring out what might be helpful. So I'll give an example. I have family who were in southern New Jersey in the early 1880s. up to about the early 1920s. So if I want to see, well, what's available there, so I go USA. Actually, let me make this bigger so everyone can see it. So just to go back, I went USA, filtering by location, right? And now I've done USA. I'm going to go choose a state because I know it's New Jersey. So I go to New Jersey, and there's 2 counties that are associated with where my family was. So I'll go to the one that they're usually in, Salem County. And now I can go through and look at all of these record collections. But if I wanted to, I could even make it more finite. So let's say the 1890s. So now we have all of this stuff from the 1890s, and a lot of this isn't searchable on Ancestry. So, when you go into search and just do your general all collection search, a lot of those things aren't going to show up. They're what's known as they're just what's known as digitized. They've been, digitally imaged, but they're not indexed or searchable. So there might be something in here that could be super helpful that I didn't really know. Now, some of them will be searchable. Not all of it will always be searchable. And there's usually a way to kind of just click through all of the options. So let's see. Actually, you know what? I'm going to click out of this because searching for a specific record set that's a good example of something not indexed. What are you doing over there, Jack? My dog's making all sorts of noises. I can't find it. Where's... All right, let's do that. Courtland. No. All right, well, let's do this one then. Oh, this one's searchable. All right, well, it doesn't matter. I wonder where. Oh, you know what? I think what I'm searching for, it's under New Jersey itself. It's the New Jersey court records, and then those are broken down by county. Let's see. But hopefully, just me doing this can give you an idea of how to kind of go through these. So let's see. I really want to find. Oh, you know what? I think what I'm thinking of might not be on here. It might be on Family Search, and that's why I can't find it. But yeah, this should hopefully give you a good idea, though, of a lot of other things to be able to find. All right, let me catch back up with chat because I haven't looked at anything past. Oh wow, we got a couple of different super chats and stickers, so let me jump to those and then we'll go back through. Alexandra with the, I think, is that €2? I forgot the symbol for euro. Is that euro? Euro. Oh, I want to see what it looks like. Yes, okay, it's euro. That's right. Alexandra, thank you so much. Appreciate that. Do you prefer this cluster to my heritages? At this point, no. But if they are able to make it where we can do a wider adjustment, well, actually, my heritage. All right, let me restart. My heritage does not allow any sort of customization with their clustering, at least unless they've rolled something new out. I'm going to go take a look real quick. But I believe that basically the way that the auto cluster works with my heritage, yeah, that's the way it works, is you literally just click on a name. I'm not going to show the screen because I don't think I can, privacy issues. But basically all you do is you put in who you want clustered and then it clusters them. With Ancestry rolling out a custom option at some point, that is going to be a big difference with what MyHeritage gives us, but we also have to see how viable actually is it. So I think the way that I would probably say it is, I think I like them both in their own way, in a sense. With MyHeritage, theirs is not been great with endogamous populations, but it's been okay. But having the access on GEDmatch's auto cluster, the endogamy auto cluster, giving us the option to adjust things already, which is the only one that really gives us that much adjustment. There is the regular auto cluster on GEDmatch, which does give an adjustment still as well, but it I don't know. it's not quite as much. I don't remember everything they give us. So, I think this is a great start, but we'll have to see what it'll come to be. But more than anything, just the fact that Ancestry's database is so isolated unto itself, it's just great to have these tools that we've been using, or similar tools that we've been using on other sites, to finally come to Ancestry, because not only is it easy to quickly understand them, but there's already been a lot of understanding in more in-depth ways that take a little bit longer to figure out. So, yeah. Jack, what are you doing? All right. My dog is like doing something weird. Give me a second. All right, Jack's gonna hang out with us for a bit. He's over there just being a little crazy dog, aren't you, baby boy? All right, so thank you again, Alexandra, for the €2, and then Brosif with the $1.99. Thank you very much. Hi, I appreciate that. Thank you for the support. Yes, it's euros. Thank you. All right, let's see. Oh yeah, throw some. I see some dog emojis. Throw some dog emojis in the chat for Jack. Petey's over there being a little tired guy. What do you think, Jack? You got tons of people looking at you. What do you have to say? My dogs love being held like babies. They love it, don't you? Oh, I don't know if everyone heard that, but he just ripped one. Maybe that's the noises I heard him making. Oh well. All right, good boy, baby boy. All right, let's go back a bit, because I like skipped a whole bunch of stuff, especially from when I was talking about all the different stuff. Oh, Blake is here. Question: who would you like to do a stream of building their family tree next? I don't know. I've been thinking about whether or not I want to do those, because they're kind of interesting in that, like, I get people who watch the stream for those that are into the people I'm like researching, but then I think, they're not a genealogy crowd, so watching some random dude clicking through, records kind of boring to a lot of them. So I don't know. It's like really, it's something I've been like, I want to do them again, but I don't know. The other thing with them is it takes a little bit of work beforehand, because I need to, first of all, get a tree set up, make sure, there is stuff I can search. And I mean, it's not a lot of work, but just with how busy I am all the time, by the time I'm thinking about, okay, I need to plan the next stream, it's like, yeah, I don't know. So I've had a lot of people give me some good ideas. And I'm sure I'm going to do more in the future, but yeah, I don't know who. So yeah, of course, if other people have suggestions, let me know. All right. Let me go through, see if I kind of see any sorts of questions or anything. Stig, we got our Scandinavian representation here. Hello. Yeah, Carmen Gal would love it if my state, especially my city, would have genealogy conferences. No conferences nor conventions here. Yeah, well, I will say there's a couple of different big genealogy conferences. The biggest is Roots Tech, which is always in Salt Lake City. They did have a London Roots Tech, and I don't know if they'll have one again. And I don't know how true this is, but I feel like I heard murmurs about them looking at doing like satellite conferences of Roots Tech elsewhere too. But in terms of some other conferences, the IAJGS conference, which I was talking about before, so this conference, which is coming up, I'm actually on the board for the IAJGS, the International Association of Jewish Genealogical Societies. And this conference is in a different spot every year. So this year it's Fort Wayne. Last year it was Philadelphia. The year before that it was in London. It was virtual a few years before that, but like the last city was in before that was Cleveland, and then before that it was Warsaw and Orlando. And then I don't know exactly all the places, but like all over San Diego and blah, blah. Like, so it travels. NGS also does the same thing. Now it's NGS and FGS, so the National Genealogical Society, and then FGS, the Federation of Genealogical Societies, I believe. So they have a singular conference. NGS this year, I believe, was in Kentucky. I don't know where 2026 is, but here we go. So let's take a look. So 2025 was in Kentucky. 2026 is going to be in Fort Wayne, and then 2027 is Madison, Wisconsin. So another traveling conference. But there's other ones as well, but all of the other ones I think are the ones that largely are just in the same spot. Like there's the Ohio Genealogy Conference. I've never been to that one. I think maybe it's just OGSC or something like that. If anyone knows, yeah, let me know. And then there's been a few conferences in Europe, but very few, which I've always kind of found interesting. Because like, a lot of our members, we're an international society, IAJGS. A lot of our members overseas often are pushing for us to have stuff overseas, which I definitely understand. It's not easy traveling internationally, and especially to the US these days. But it's been difficult to do conferences in Europe because basically conferences in Europe, and I guess not even just Europe, but basically conferences outside of North America don't seem to just draw as well in total, which I guess there could be a few different reasons for that. But I would imagine that could be part of why there isn't as many conferences overseas. But yeah, for those who, live in the US, it could just be a matter of years before you have a conference. It's going to be within, drive to you. And interestingly enough, it was because I went to the NGS conference in North Carolina in Raleigh in 2017 that I decided to actually become a professional genealogist. I don't know if I've told this story before. I think I've talked about it before. But basically, I was in a band and trying to be a musician, playing music and touring, and I had my own booking agency. You can look it up, Drop Back Booking. I was in bands. I know I've played my music on stream. I've played some of my music in videos, even if you didn't know it. And basically, I was supposed to be on tour, and the band I was in, we played a show, and our guitarist and drummer got into a fight on stage. We ended up breaking up, and we couldn't reconcile things. And the week that we were going to be on tour, we had to cancel, but it also happened to be the week that NGS was in Raleigh. So I went to NGS, and after I went to NGS, when I was at NGS, I went to the Ancestry Pro booth and talked to some of the people there, and that's what led me to being a professional. So yeah, and after that, it was like, oh, I got to get to as many conferences as I can. So, all right, I think I'm going to stop talking about conferences. I don't think everyone gets the same views that I get, but like for me, as soon as I started talking about my own conference history or becoming professional, I saw the numbers start to tick down, and they're still going. So all right, let's get back to the questions then, because obviously people aren't into me chatting about myself. All right, let's see. Shiny Dark Knight, do you have any advice of what to do next when researching Irish ancestors in the 1800s and 1700s? I'm really stuck with my oldest known Irish ancestors being born in early 1800s. Now, this isn't something that I'm super familiar with. I've done only a little bit of Irish research, but what I would suggest is there's actually a Discord group that you can look at, that you can join. That's actually, it's like slightly connected to mine in the sense that the people that run this group are also some of the mods and admins on my channel or my Discord server. But it's literally just a server called Irish Genealogy. I don't know if Charlie or Matt or Blackberry, for some reason I was like, why am I thinking Blueberry? But if any of them are in here, I think they all do stuff for them, or if any of the people from that Irish Genealogy Discord. But the other thing I would suggest, just coming from someone who doesn't know as much about it, would be going to the Family Search Wiki and looking further into what's available for Irish genealogy. The Family Search Wiki is basically just like a wiki designed for assisting in or guiding people in genealogy research. So this is that page. You just go here and then, start to figure out things depending on what you're researching. So, let's say your family came from County Sligo. Okay, so we look at County Sligo, and then we can look at what's available. We look through what records are here. So there's Ireland Catholic qualification and convert rolls, the Ireland diocesan and prerogative marriage license bonds indexes. A Jew trying to pronounce a lot of words from that he doesn't know. Yeah. But anyway, just go through this and see, is there anything that would apply to possibly uncovering this family? The other thing you can do, Ireland Online Genealogy Records, and you can scroll through and see what do they have available. And I mean, they have a lot available, but it's just a matter of finding what would you expect to overlap with your family? What records make sense that you would find the ancestors you're looking for being in there? So, yeah. Okay. All right, let's keep going. Robert Skurlock II. Hey, Jarrett. Robert Skurlock II here. I'm the great-great-great-grandson of George Washington Coble. Isn't Coble a Jewish name or German help? Now, I don't know a ton about this name Coble specifically, but just in general, a large majority of Jewish names are really surnames that were more commonly adopted by Jewish families, but not specifically just Jewish families. So, like Goldberg or Rosenberg, technically those are more German names. So that could be the case here. There are some names that are very much Jewish, any of the Cohen names or the equivalents of it, Kagan, Kahin, Kohanim. I'm sure there's all sorts of ones. Then as well, the Levi names, Levite, Levin, Levinson, that stuff. Those are true Jewish names. But, same thing with the Sephardic surnames. You'll see surnames of Sephardic families, and you'll see stuff where you're like, that sounds like an Ashkenazi name. And that's just because it was a Sephardic family that might have converted, or not converted, but there were Ashkenazi who went to Spain, Iberia, before it was Spain and Portugal, really, but, went to Iberia pre-1400s and then basically kind of became Sephardi. We know that especially through Y-DNA testing as well. But on top of that, there's a lot of stuff that can happen where some of these people that might be Ashkenazi end up on Sephardi lists. But anyway, a lot of Sephardic Jewish surnames are really just Spanish and Portuguese names that were just commonly adopted by Sephardic Jews. So my guess is Kobel is probably a German name that was just commonly adopted by Jews, because I know I've heard of other Jewish people with the last name Kobel. But yeah, I don't know for sure. I don't know for sure. All right, let me scroll forward because I am far back. Wowza. Yeah, I am far back. A lot of dog emojis. Oh, Catherine, hey, cuz, good to see you. Trying to get stuff ready for conference. Got some things for you. All right. I guess I'm guessing some of those things might involve a word that starts with the letter C and ends with the word Adberry. I don't know. Maybe some tree rays. If we do a little pig Latin. So awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys. All right, let's see. Oh yeah, cute. Yeah, I have some cute little dog boys. My cute dogs. Sleepy little boys now. All right, Julia. Sorry, my question is off topic, but will you watch Naming the Dead? If yes, could you please review it like you did with the Breakthrough? I think, is Naming the Dead the DNA Doe Project's show that's coming out? Yeah, it is. Okay, the show following DNA Doe Project. Yeah, I mean, that's probably not a bad idea. I wouldn't try to do a reaction to it, but yeah, I mean, doing some sort of review of it. Yeah, I mean, that'd be pretty cool. I mean, it's not going to be like the Breakthrough where it's like a dramatized thing. I don't think they might have dramatic reenactions of stuff in that, but yeah, that'll be interesting. So, for those who don't know, the DNA Doe Project is a group that was started by Dr. Margaret Press and Dr. Colleen Fitzpatrick. I think they were the ones that started it. I hope I'm not getting that wrong. I'm pretty sure they were the ones that did. And basically, the whole idea is that they help in investigations to identifying unknown remains, Doe cases. So this was the type of work I was doing when I worked as an investigative genetic genealogist. And basically, DNA Doe Project, the people that work at DNA Doe Project would also be considered investigative genetic genealogists. So yeah, looks like it's going to be interesting talking about the different cases. So yeah, I imagine I won't have much criticism for it. I think it'll just depend on what they include and what they don't include. And so, that's the kind of stuff where I might be able to say, oh, okay, explain this a bit, or I don't know. So, but yeah, I'll definitely look into that. That's a good call. Thank you for the idea, Julia. All right, let's see. Yeah. To be fair, I have an interest in genealogy of U.S. presidents, and I watched a video which debunked the theory that all U.S. presidents minus Van Buren are descended from King John. I mean, I don't know what video that is. I'll have to check it out, I guess, because I have my own video all about the presidents all being related, and I reference multiple scientific articles that basically show how it makes sense that all of the presidents, and not just that, but anyone with European ancestry would be able to trace themselves to King John. Because he lived about 1,000 years ago, and based on the mathematical studies and all the whatever in that. Yeah. So if you haven't seen that video of mine, go check it out. I know I see people mention that a lot. It was a collaboration with Mr. Beat and Useful Charts too. But yeah, I mean, in terms of provable ancestry to King John, I don't know. I know it's definitely not all the presidents minus Van Buren. Because there are some presidents like Woodrow Wilson who have very little known about their ancestry. Woodrow, actually, I wonder if I should pull that up. It is kind of interesting. I think it's Wilson who I'm thinking of, where basically there's like some sort of like adoption or unknown parentage thing going on in his family tree, and so it makes it where basically we don't know his ancestry very well. All right, I'm pulling up the tree on Genie. Let's do this. Direct ancestors only. Okay. Yeah, maybe I'm wrong if it's Wilson, because this isn't how I remember the tree looking, but I might be. All right, but yeah, so here's his tree. I mean, I want to say it was this, but for some reason, what I remembered was it was basically like it was like a parent or a grandparent of his was adopted or something like that. But I could be wrong. I also don't know right now if this is fully correct, because as much as I love Genie, one thing that everyone should do whenever you review any tree online is don't always take it at 100% this is correct. And especially with some of these trees on Genie and stuff like that, even if it's usually correct, like a lot of stuff, if you see the master profile and it's locked down and all of that, you're usually good. But every once in a while you can get people coming in and they, either vandalize the page, they purposely put in wrong information, or sometimes it's just people who don't know what they're doing. And then they do it and someone doesn't catch it at the right time. And then you view it. Yeah. So, but with all that said, yeah. All interesting. All right, let's have the tree on there. All right, let's keep going. Yeah, they're building a new convention center in my city. Could be worth Roots Tech to consider it. Yeah, I mean, I would love another excuse to go back out to England, and just I need to travel Europe, because that trip was the only time I've been over. And there's so much I need to do. And I mean, I went to London and Amsterdam, in both cities. It was like, okay, I need so much more to do. I also need. I'm not the best traveling on my own. Like I'm okay, but it's like I'm just always that type of person. Like I really enjoy doing things with other people. And so like actually, Catherine, where is Catherine? Oh wait, I just realized Carmigel. For some reason, I thought you were. So okay, Carmigel. You're probably like, wait, what is he talking about? Europe. But yeah, Catherine and I, when we were in Philly together, we went to a stand-up comic that I wanted to go check out, and I was like, hey, you want to go? And she was down. Yeah, it was awesome. That was a lot of fun. Yeah. All right. So yeah, I'd love a genealogy conference in the UK. Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame that, I don't know if it's just a lack of genealogy societies in the UK or a lack of funding or what it is, but I have been surprised that I don't see more events being put on by European societies. And maybe that's just because I'm not seeing those, and maybe they're happening and I just don't realize. So if they are, please let me know. But that'd be interesting to see, like more of the genealogy crowd in Europe coming together to, put on events as well. Yeah, and even if conferences are near you, sometimes they're not particularly cost effective. Yeah, that's a huge issue with a lot of conferences, and one of the biggest hurdles that every conference tries to overcome. Because especially every conference, their aim is we want to get as many young people as possible, because most of genealogy is people over 60 probably, and they're always like, we want to get our kids and our grandkids into this. And I will say, as someone who presents about genealogy, it is very hard to make it interesting, and there are a lot of people who are really into genealogy who don't know how to tell a story, and it makes telling a genealogy story really difficult to listen to. Even as someone who loves genealogy, I love going to the conferences. I love meeting people, but sometimes you start talking to somebody at these conferences and they just don't know when to stop, and they just tell you every little detail. Yeah, and then my grandparents had 10 siblings, and there was Joe, and he got married and had 5 siblings, and these were their names. And then there was this other one, and then they go on for like 20 minutes, and I'm not always the best with getting out of those. So I'm the type of person where it's like I'm always like looking around, like hoping someone could save me. But not everyone's like that, but it is, that is one of the things. But anyway, back to the cost effectiveness of it. It's usually one of the things they try to do. A lot of these conferences try to be in big cities because they want people that are going to these to have the feeling that there's a lot more to do. One issue is the cost of the tickets to these are usually expensive. Most conferences are a couple of $100 for the pass for the entire time. And then that's just the base cost. So as an example, for the IJGS conference, they don't put it right there. They don't tell you immediately. Okay. Why don't we have that straight up front? All right. Yeah, I guess I can't pull that up. What is, let's see, conference basics. Okay. All right. Well, I'm not going to search forever looking for the price, but on top of the price, depending on what you want to do, there's workshops, which will be an added cost. You can also do breakfast with the experts. So if there's someone that you really like that you want to do a breakfast with, you can do that. There's the gala banquet, which is an extra cost. And so there's a couple of things with extra costs, and pretty much every conference is like that. They have a whole bunch of different things going on. And not all of it is included in the ticket price. But then on top of that, if you're traveling from out of town, even if it's like an hour away, depending on your personality, if it's far enough that, you don't want to drive back, you got to get hotel rooms, and then the cost of the food, and usually in the bigger cities, that's more expensive. So that's actually one reason why we went to Fort Wayne for this year as IAJGS. And probably one reason why NGS will be doing that next year is because it's a smaller city. So you don't have as expensive costs as going to Philadelphia or going to London or going to San Diego or, cities that, a little bit bigger. And then on top of that, Midwest, a little bit more central and all of that. So help cut those costs and all of that. But yeah, as someone who has been on the side of, the getting the conference going and all of that, there's so much that go into these things. It's, it definitely makes sense why not everyone tries to do it. It is difficult. And I, one of the reasons why I think RootsTech is always so successful is because with the backing of the funding from the church, they have a lot that they can do and not worry about making money. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if RootsTech loses the church money. They certainly make a good amount from the ticket sales, and, they sell merch and, other stuff too. But they treat everybody, they treat everybody who's involved very well, whether you're a speaker or on the media team or you're just a volunteer. It's pretty cool what they do for RootsTech. The Irish genealogy server. There's a link for it for whoever wants to learn more about Irish genealogy. And then John Tyner, one of our Irish genealogists and a Wiki treer. Irish genealogy is the name of a good site. Are you saying that's the name of a good site for people to check out, or that would be the name of a good site? I gotta imagine there's an irishgenealogy.com. So, okay, yeah. Find My Past has lots of Irish records as well. The Irish Family History Center located in Dublin, or contact Belfast. Cool. And then, of course, my own Discord server. So be sure to join. if you want to, ask questions. A lot of people very helpful there. And that's usually one of the better places if you want to interact with me. I'm not on there all the time, but I'm on there a decent amount. Or at least I should say I'm not on there all the time and able to talk, but I check it every once in a while and stuff. So Lux D, I'm curious as to why my Armenian side via my mom shows on Ancestry as Eastern Anatolia, which it also does for my mom, but on my heritage, I get 60% Southern Italian, whereas my mom gets Armenian. We got a lot of stuff going on here. For one, the comparison of what results you get on one site to another, especially for a difference like this. Well, both sites are going to have different definitions of population groups. So it's not like every site has every population group you could ever think of as part of their percentages. They only define things as best they can. So some sites might say Southern Italian, and even though it says Southern Italian, you look at what they're defining as the coverage, and it might be a lot more than you'd expect. On top of that difference, each site, even though they're largely testing most of the same DNA markers, they are also each testing unique DNA markers that the other site's not testing. So some of the DNA that they're testing that might be read as one thing isn't being tested on the other site, and so the other site isn't even going to be able to pick up on whatever that DNA might be telling them. So that's just the difference from site to site. But then in terms of difference between you and your mom, well, for one, you're getting 60% Southern Italian, which means that some of that is being representative of the DNA you're getting from your father. But then on top of that, you're not giving us all of the results. You're giving us just some. But the best way to look at these is regionally. Don't focus on the specifics of like country or specific, it says this specific area. It's like, no, think regionally, large regionally. So when it says Southern Italian, think Mediterranean. And I'm literally talking, think Mediterranean, think all the way over Spain, Portugal, Gibraltar, bring it all the way across North Africa, up to Egypt, up the Levant, up into the Balkans, come back around, boom, the entire Mediterranean, because these tests are not telling you that you're 60% Southern Italian. They are telling you that 60% of your DNA is correlating to what they're defining as Southern Italian. And because of that, the definition of the Southern Italian population, that's present day people. So they're testing people who say that they're all Southern Italian. They read that DNA and then they say, okay, the DNA that we find common amongst them, if we find other people with that DNA, we'll read that as Italian. But not all of those people are 100% Italian. So that is a serious issue because you're not going to get pure results, because the present day population of Southern Italy is made up of people from all over the Mediterranean. So you see where I'm going with this, where the people in Southern Italy, while a lot of their ancestry is probably Southern Italy, a lot of their ancestry is also from throughout the Mediterranean probably. And so as time goes on and people test more and more and they do more studies, they can start figuring out, oh, what we thought seemed more related to Southern Italy, actually this seems to relate much more towards the Balkans, we could just say. So that's part of it. The other thing as well is, in terms of being read on the same site, there's a lot of other issues that can happen. So one, there's a 1% margin of error in just reading the DNA. So those small differences can make things a little bit different. The other thing is issues of phasing. So, it might be reading DNA markers that it's mixing up of DNA from your dad and DNA of your mom, but because of the way that it's mixed up, it looks like something different. So that could be part of it too. So there's a lot of stuff going into it, but the biggest thing to take out of this is don't take these percentage results, the admixture results, as pure facts. Take them as a very blurry idea of what your ancestry is. And once again, focus on that regionally. Unfortunately, a lot of people look into these DNA tests and all they think about are these percentages. And the percentages are like the least useful part of it, especially if you really want to learn your ancestry. The most useful part are the DNA matches and doing the actual genealogy work, which not everyone wants to do. I definitely understand that. But, if you're going to complain about, it's not telling me so specifically, it's like, well, then give it a try and see what it actually can tell you with its strongest part of the results. The way I always like to talk about it with DNA tests, people will say, oh, this DNA test is so bad. It gave me such wrong percentages. And to me, that'd be the equivalent of like being like, I hate that car because I don't like its radio. I don't like the CD player it has in there. I want a better CD player. And it's like, that's, when people are comparing different DNA tests, that's what it feels like to me, because it's like, who cares about that? Like, yeah, I guess it matters a little bit, but you really care more about the car. Like, how does the car actually run? So yeah. Okay. Hopefully that was helpful. Yeah. DG Dr. GKED or DGKED. I don't know. Either way, keep missing a lot of your content. Somehow I'm not getting noticed, even though I've clicked the bell. Interesting. I've heard from some other people about that too, and including some like family friends. And I don't know what that is, because I even like helped one of my family friends. I was like over at their house, and she was saying like, I did the notification and I had her pull up, the thing, and it wasn't notified anymore. And so like I hit it for her. And then the next time I saw her, it was like, she was like, I'm not getting them again. Same thing. So it's like unclicking the bell for people or something. Like, I don't know. It's weird. I don't know. Hopefully it's not a super serious issue that continues. All right. Okay, let me scroll forward a little bit. What time is it? Oh wow, it's 5:00. Oh wow, and I think we didn't hit the goal. The goal thing ended. Oh, I didn't realize it ended like that. Okay. Well, if we get 3 more super chats, doesn't matter how much before the end, I'll show that video with all the different genealogists, and it's a lot of them, and I hope it'd be a lot of them that people are like, oh my gosh. All right, let's see. Vicky, could I ask where best place to find Philadelphia records are away from Ancestry? I'm getting to grips with searching American records. Well, with Philadelphia records, I think there's a ton of stuff all over the place. For one, there's a couple of different archives and museums and historical societies and genealogical societies throughout Philadelphia that have different catalogs that, you'll have to go through and look and see what they have. A lot of different universities have different catalogs, like Temple University, I think, has a lot of stuff available. Temple University actually has a lot of useful stuff available in general genealogy, like the passage books of, who was buying tickets for immigrants. Let's see. That's not very specific to Philadelphia, but just kind of as an example of, what's available, so Temple University libraries and, Blitzstein Bank history. And so you can go through and, let's look at all the ledgers. You can see what an example is, but there's a lot of stuff on Temple. So there's a lot that way. Of course, I mentioned before the Wiki tree, which we'll look at in a second after I pull up an example. So, here's the Blitzstein book. So you can see the date, 1910, February 7th, the number. You'd have to reference to see what this means, but I think this has to do with how much they're paying. The steamship they took, passengers' names. So we have Abraham Schwartz, passenger's address. So Shmuel Yosel Littlewitz M. Balakrin, in wherever that is. That'd take a little time to figure out. It looks like, I don't know if that's Bavaria. No, Bazar. It doesn't matter. But coming from Hamburg via Liverpool, I think that's supposed to be Liverpool, to Philadelphia, SS line, the America line, and then purchaser's name, who bought the ticket, their address. So interesting stuff. But the other thing you can do, so in WikiTree, or not WikiTree, excuse me, Family Searches Wiki. Here, let's do we'll do Philadelphia County. It's probably better to do the county. And so just kind of go through and see what's available. It'll give you a lot of information about stuff. I think one of the most useful things in this one is you're going to want to go towards the bottom, and then they have these different societies that you'll want to look into depending on what you want. So like History Society of Pennsylvania, go to their website and then see what they have available. All of these different ones, the Jewish Genealogical and Archival Society of Greater Philadelphia. That's it. You can see theirs if you're doing Jewish research. So lots of stuff to get. And then also different websites that have stuff. And then it's also sometimes useful to look at the references, especially if like, as you're going through, you notice one of the references. So let's see. So like here, this reference here, Swedes and Finns spreading whatever, if that applies to you and you're like, whoa, I want to learn more about that. There you go. You got some stuff that you can look into. So hopefully that'll give you some ideas of some cool stuff to check out. Yeah, we're known as a flyover state. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I understand. Definitely understand. Oh yeah, Who Do You Think You Are has an event once a year, but not a conference. Yeah, I think I know I've heard about that, but it's kind of small. Isn't it kind of small? Like I guess maybe it's like a couple hundred people or so. Which I mean, the Jewish Genealogy Conferences are usually about 600 or so to 800, I think is usually the range. So Who Do You Think You Are has an annual event. Oh, most town cities will have a genealogy historical society group. Yeah, I feel like that's pretty common everywhere. Like I know I've done I've done a few talks for some of the Jewish groups in England. So JGSGB, Jewish Genealogical Society of Greater Britain, I've done some talks for them. Yeah. So, but yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, there's one JGS in UK and one in Ireland. We have an annual one-day conference. Oh, okay, that's cool. I didn't know that. Okay. X Rare Light X. So when I take a DNA test someday, it'll say I'm Balkan instead of Serbian only. Not necessarily. I mean, sometimes these DNA test percentages can be very spot on for people. And that's one of the largest reasons why you'll often hear people either really hating on a site or really loving on a site, is because it's usually people that have usually tested on multiple sites, and one of the sites did really well in saying exactly what their ancestry was, and other ones didn't. So just as an example, let's pull up the MyHeritage DNA population groups that they define. So basically, what are the groups that you could even be defined as? So we just have to actually find it. Let's see. Version 2.5. But that is kind of what you have to think of, is it's not necessarily that you have to expect it to be only regionally. You just have to understand that when you look at it, think of it regionally. So here we go. So Europe, here's how they break it down. So if we look to the Balkans, I thought they were going to show up more. This is, of course, the blurriest one they have. Okay, so in terms of here's everything they have. So these are, if you have European ancestry, this is what they'll define you as. So there is no Serbian reading. So you wouldn't expect Serbian. You probably would just expect Balkan. And then this is going to be different on every site. So let's pull up what does Ancestry have available in Europe? So when we zoom in, they actually give us a map that we can really look at. But so let's look at Europe. And then, okay, Southern Europe. And so here we go. We've got Sardinian. Let's see. No, they don't have any Serbian. So they have the Balkans, Eastern European Roma, Greece and Albania, the Aegean Islands, Malta, Sardinia, Southern Italian, and Eastern Mediterranean. So remember, I was talking about Southern Italian before. Well, here, Ancestry even said, you know what? We're not even going to say Southern Italian by itself. Let's include at least the Eastern Mediterranean because there's so much ties between there. Northern Italy, Basque, Spain, Portugal. But then they have ancestral journeys, and this is where it becomes important, or where it becomes useful for this part of the test, because the ancestral journeys are usually based on their comparison with other DNA matches. And so then you get very specific population groups. So now you've got South Greece, Croatia, Madeira, Northern Sicily. Let's see if we can find something for Serbian. Yeah, I guess it's going to be kind of lumped in one of these. Let me see. I'm going to do a quick search here on my phone. All right. Yeah, I think it's going to be the same. So, all right. So, yeah. So, it's probably, which one's it going to probably be lumped in with? I don't know. It's like, because it's going to be one of these. No, I don't know. But either way, yeah. So I mean, there's a lot going into it, but the main thing is that the percentages really just aren't the strongest part of the test. They just aren't. Okay. So yeah, don't trust MyHeritage. I mean, I think their matches and all that are great. But I know a lot of people think, the MyHeritage DNA admixture results are some of the worst in a lot of people's opinions. I don't think I really think that necessarily. I think some of the other ones are certainly seemingly more reliable, but I also, I don't worry too much about that stuff. All right. Or at least I don't worry too much about the admixture stuff. Let me say that. I don't want to make it sound like, oh, they're more reliable, but I don't care about that. I don't care about the fact that their admixtures are more reliable, because the admixtures don't matter as much. It'd be like telling me, like, hey, do you want this amazing car with a terrible radio, or would you like this shit car with the most amazing radio? I'd rather the good car with the bad radio. But then again, I guess everyone's different. Yeah, Rob, I spent almost no money on this hobby except maybe on books about my ancestors or the history of towns and cities, which I think is not something that is easily said by anyone, or I don't think that's something that's as easily said by most genealogists, especially those outside the Netherlands. But yeah, I imagine a big part of that has to do with the laws in the Netherlands making all records basically available and free online. But yeah, I mean, it is very hard to do genealogy without paying some sort of cost for some memberships or whatever. And that's one of the things that actually I tell people is a reason to hire a genealogist. If you do want to get a lot of stuff out of it, and you want to do a little bit of research, but not a lot. Well, you don't want to pay for a membership to Ancestry, a membership to Genealogy Bank, or membership to American Ancestors, a membership to MyHeritage, a membership to this, a membership to that. It's like there's so many. And so that's kind of one of the reasons why sometimes it's useful to hire a genealogist, just because you're not just hiring their expertise, but you're also kind of hiring them for all of the access that they're kind of already paying for, in a sense. Not as big of a reason to hire them, but it's something to consider. Myra, I tried the new cluster tool in Ancestry, but almost immediately got an error message that my matches cannot be clustered. This seemed weird because I was able to do the clustering on MyHeritage. Well, if you haven't watched my video, be sure to watch it because I talk about some of these differences. And basically what's happening is MyHeritage and Ancestry, it's not the same tool. It is a very similar tool, putting the output in a very similar way, a matrix graph like that. But it is very different in how they're defining things. And I talked a little bit about it earlier in this stream. But the guy who invented the auto cluster, E.J. Blum, told me that a big part of it he thinks has to do with the way that Ancestry does what it's called seeding. So I guess it's kind of like the first match that it uses to then start referencing everything else. So yeah, if you haven't watched my new video, be sure to go watch that. And you're welcome, Vicky. Thank you so much. I know 2 ancestors landed at the port. I'll check out Temple. Oh, cool. Yeah. So if you do want to search through the Blitzstein books, go and I'm trying to think who has it where it's searchable. I think Family Search has a search function for those books. It's not just the Blitzstein books, though. There's other ones. There's the Blitzstein books. There's the Rosenbaum books. I think actually a lot of them are also searchable through Jewish Gen, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I know a good amount of them are searchable on Jewish Gen, but I don't know if it's only Jewish passengers. But if you're also dealing with a Jewish family, then maybe it doesn't matter. And yeah, there you go. I read that Pennsylvania birth records were not recorded between 1855 and 1892. Unbelievable. Well, yeah, I mean, let's take a look. Where is it? Births. Okay, here we go. So early births, 1893, 1905. Yeah. So yeah, it looks like I mean, there was some stuff. But I guess that it also depends, the state of Pennsylvania versus the specific counties or towns or whatnot. But we can also do this. Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania online records. And then the births. So yeah, I don't know necessarily what you're referencing. I mean, maybe others do. But I feel like that's not too uncommon all around the world, though, is that there's a lot of areas where births aren't recorded or it's not required that they're recorded. So you can't trust that everyone will be recorded. That is something to learn whenever you're looking for someone in a record set and you can't find them in the record set. You need to consider, is it possible that they just weren't recorded here, but the thing I'm looking for did happen? So great example for me, New Jersey births in the 1880s and 1890s for the Jewish agricultural communities. Not everybody was recorded. And even those that were recorded weren't recorded very well. But something to consider, where if you're looking for an ancestor in those and you don't find them, that's not going to mean, okay, well, they must have not been born here. It just means, well, can't find them. Don't know why. Let's see. Diana O'Higgins. Hello, I'm from Argentina. I have the FTDNA test done. Very helpful, and I uploaded to MyHeritage, among others. And it is very accurate, I have to say, because I've made my family tree. Very cool. Yeah, I mean, I think that's one thing I say all the time, too, is that some of these sites are geared towards certain populations much better than others. And I think that's a common thing you'll see, is certain people from certain population groups are going to hate on certain tests more than others, or like certain tests more than others, because it does so well or does so much worse than the others. So, I think that's one thing that a lot of people will ask, that I sometimes do give answers to a little bit more, because I hate answering the, why is this site better, or why, blah, 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 or why, which site is the best, which gives you the best percentages. And it's like, I don't like answering that because I don't think any of them necessarily do. But sometimes if someone, is from a specific population group, it might make more sense to test on one site over the other. I think Living DNA really is the one that takes the cake on that. And that's the only thing that they really stand out with, is that their admixture results. If you're Northwestern European, definitely take Living DNA to see what it says for the admixture, especially if you want to utilize that genealogically. And people with African ancestry also testing on Living DNA because they have the most nuanced results. Doesn't necessarily they're going to be the most accurate, but interestingly, from what I've heard from a lot of people, they've been quite accurate and very specific results. So if anyone has experience with Living DNA and their admixtures in that, comment. Karma, for me, Ancestry is the closest, backed up by matches and sources. My heritage still misses a target for my ethnicity results. Rob, I found so much that I do not have the time to do something with. It's sitting in my Google Drive. Most stuff won't end up in my tree, but elsewhere. Interesting. And Rare Light just caught up. Thanks for explaining that for me. Glad to help. I know that's one thing with a lot of these DNA test sites that a lot of people don't realize is it's like they aren't defining every single country. And so it's like, once you kind of see what are they defining, it's like a quick click, I feel, for a lot of people of like, oh, okay, well, that's why, if I'm Serbian and I test and I don't get Serbian, I shouldn't freak out because it's not going to give anybody Serbian. Karma Gal found out that a great-great-grandfather on my paternal grandma's side falsified his age in order to fight for the Union during the Civil War. He was 14. The roll said that he made himself 18. Yeah, it's so interesting how easy it was to fake your age back in the day, but makes sense. It's a lot harder to track people. Myra, thanks. Tried the cluster tool after watching your video. Guess I have too much endogamy, adoptions, and cousin matches to work for me on Ancestry. Not holding my breath that this will ever work for me. Well, I wouldn't say that necessarily because they still haven't rolled out the tool fully. With the custom options, I think once that rolls out, that's where we're really going to hope that this tool starts making big leads for people. But if the custom options roll out and then it basically just doesn't work very well, I think that's when it's going to be like, okay, I'm starting to get a little disappointed in this. So at this point, I'm just, I'm very optimistic about the future of it. But I also want to be realistic, which I try to be with everything I talk about. It's one of the reasons why when My Heritage sponsored some of my videos, the first thing I made sure was that if there's anything I want to say negative about them, I'm not barred from that. And I made sure of that. So, but there's not, the only thing I really hate on My Heritage for is the admixture. And you all have already heard, I don't hate on them that much about it because I hate on all the sites about the admixtures. But I do acknowledge, My Heritage's admixture is the one I hear more than any other site that people do not like their results for the admixture percentages. So, yeah. In Turkey, in Turkey, the government provides you a document in which you can see your ancestors' names and birthplaces from 1820s. That's cool. I did not know that. I know for a lot of my Sephardi friends who come from areas or their families came from areas that are present day Turkey, it is very difficult to research there, but I don't know the specific details on it. But then again, that's kind of a little bit different of a history, the way, Jews in the Ottoman Empire versus the present day population of Turkey. And I guess I don't know for sure, but my understanding is the different sides of Turkey are very different from each other, especially the European side versus the Asian side. But I don't know. Let me know. Diana, one tool that helps me to break a brick wall on my Galicia side is GEDmatch, because I was able to find a third cousin, and that shows me the path to my grandma and her parents emigrate to my country. That is really cool. I will say GEDmatch is one of the sites that I wish more people were on these days for a long time, GEDmatch, like everybody was loving on it. Unfortunately, when everything happened with the whole, Golden State Killer and investigative genetic genealogy stuff, which I do think that side of things is great. Unfortunately, the way that things were handled and the way that it was presented to the public, so many people took their results off of GEDmatch. A lot of people hated how basically the site changed the terms of service. And funny enough, from what I remember, the terms of service, and I could be wrong because I went to the Wayback Machine to try to find it a while ago and I never found it. But for some reason, I remember the terms of service saying something that was basically like, the aim of this site is for genealogy purposes, but this site is public and could be used for any sorts of purposes. So I don't know if anyone else remembers that, or maybe I should try to look for that again. But that was one of the things that it was like, when they changed the terms of service, it's like, why do that if your terms of service already adhere to what you're allowing being done? But yeah, I mean, obviously, I think a lot of us have already experienced, especially with 23andMe lately, that people are getting even less and less trustworthy of DNA testing as a whole. But unfortunately, a large part of that is from so much fear mongering from people, and sometimes even fear mongering from people that is a little surprising. I think one of the most surprising ones for me, which this is a video that I was surprised got no traction at all, was my reaction to Dr. Mike's video telling people not to DNA test. And while I agreed with a lot of what he said in the video, he completely did not mention anything about Ancestry, what the benefits of the Ancestry side would be, and also said some stuff that was just straight up incorrect. And in fact, he replied to my video. He made a comment, which was cool. And I thanked him for that. But he had some rebuttals to what I say in the video. And one of them was terrible because he basically just glossed over the fact that I didn't think the Ancestry stuff was relevant. And I had other people commenting below that basically saying, I'm really disappointed to see this comment from you, Dr. Mike. And I love Dr. Mike's content, and all that, but it was one of those moments of where you really like somebody until you see them talk about something that and then it wasn't as much the video, it was more his response afterwards where I was like, that's disappointing. Because the other thing too was he was like, well, 23andMe has had investigative genetic genealogy work, and then posted a Good Morning America article, which is like, dude, you're posting Good Morning America article as your proof? That is not a good source of proof. So yeah, so I don't even remember where I was going with getting into this. Oh yeah, the fear mongering side. But basically it's just fewer people are DNA testing, I think, because a lot of that. But then on top of that, the sites like GEDmatch and 23andMe, because of all of the controversies that they've gone through, it's gotten more people to be like, I'm out of here. So Myra, DNA related question here. If I have several matches with paternal haplogroup of EL29, but we don't have same maternal line, does that mean we likely match on our paternal line somehow? Well, I'm confused because you're saying several matches with a paternal haplogroup of EL29. So, yeah, I'm a little confused by your question. If you can try to reword it, because I mean, if it's a paternal haplogroup, if they're all sharing paternal haplogroup, with you, then that's where we would expect. I don't have same maternal line. Yeah, so I mean, if you're matching them, or if you have someone in your family line that for sure is from that family line, and they're matching these people through the Y DNA. Oh, this is on 23andMe. I'm female looking for my bio father. Oh, well, if you're on, don't focus too much on the haplogroups then. Don't focus too much on that. Because for one, if you're female, you don't have the Y DNA. So that's not going to help you. It might be helpful to see a bunch of matches that seem to be from the same family and have the same surname, having the same paternal haplogroup, because then you can know, okay, well, they all must be coming from some same family, and that might be the line that I'm connected through. but it wouldn't necessarily mean that you're connected through your paternal line. It would just be an indication that you might be connected through their paternal lines. But it doesn't mean that's the case for sure. It's an indication that could be the possibility. So yeah. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm trying to think if I should add anything else to that. But yeah, I mean, it can be helpful, but unfortunately, it can be a little bit more confusing for some people, especially considering haplogroups trace back thousands of years. So you might see that all these people are matching through a paternal haplogroup, but in reality, that paternal haplogroup for each one of them, their most recent paternal ancestor was, 1,000 years ago, or lived 1,000 years ago, or 1,500 years ago, or maybe even 3,000 or 4,000 years ago, because some of the haplogroups that 23andMe is able to give you aren't that close. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. Okay. Eve, Dr. Mike was very disappointing. All my matches seem to be searching for unknown parents and grandparents. So yeah, two separate statements. But yeah, the Dr. Mike one, that was very disappointing. And I remember actually seeing a video recently of Dr. Mike's. There was a good video, but somebody had commented, Dr. Mike is always unbiased and always blah, blah, blah. And I remember being like, no. No. Yeah, lost so many matches on 23andMe. So disappointing. Yeah. Interesting. Okay, Burke Sulek, living DNA messed up with my results. According to them, I'm 27% Scandinavian. I am Turkish. Oh, wow, interesting. Okay. So yeah, so I guess, with living DNA focusing so much on the Northwestern European, yeah, I guess some of the stuff might be kind of being read like that. For people who are Jewish, living DNA doesn't do any Jewish readings, so it gives us like wild readings, largely European, I think, which is annoying because then you get some of the anti-Semitic people coming out of the woodwork and pointing to stuff like that and being like, see, they are Europeans, they're not the real Jews, or whatever, some of the people that do that weird stuff. Yeah, so yeah, Drea, same haplogroup also might point to ancestry from a particular region, right? Yes and no. I think this is a little overdone by some people, just because, when you're talking about a Y lineage or a mitochondrial DNA lineage, the haplogroup lineages, you're talking about one specific line on your family. So you're not looking at things in a larger population sort of idea. And when you're talking about that, it takes one person in your family line to completely change things up, so for me, I'm largely Ashkenazi, some Sephardi, Jewish American. And if I decided to move to Kenya and settled down and had a bunch of kids in Kenya, and especially, a bunch of boys, and then they went on to have a bunch of boys, and then my Y lineage continued on in Africa. Well, after, a couple hundred years, you might do DNA testing in Africa, and all of a sudden there's like, thousands of people with that Y signature, because, after a couple hundred years, that's like, if you research people born in the 1700s and you bring their family lines forward in time, you usually find that they have thousands, if not tens of thousands of living descendants. And so if that happens, where there's tens of thousands of people in Kenya with my Y signature, when they start doing testing, they're going to start seeing that popping up. And if someone from that family line does a 23andMe test, their reading is just going to be the general haplogroup. And so they're going to be like, oh, wow, I guess I'm Jewish. So does that mean that, my ancestry is going to be a Jewish lineage? And yes, it is, but it's going to be somewhere in there. And so, you're not going to be able to pinpoint a particular region. I don't know if I'm kind of hitting the point quite as strongly as I had mine. So, I mean, in some ways, yes, it can be indicative of a particular region you might expect, but in the same ways of like, okay, well, let me take that as a possible hint, but not take it as fact, So it's like, I guess back to the example I was giving, if they start researching their family tree, it's going to take them hundreds of years, the people born hundreds of years after me, hundreds of years back to find me and then figure out, oh, he's the one that came over. But you add a couple of, you add 1,000 years onto that, and that's when you get these little pockets of really dense haplogroups where it's like, why are they over there? I remember there was there was a Finding Your Roots where they did something similar, but for the mitochondrial DNA. And basically they found out that the mitochondrial DNA was like this common mitochondrial line from Africa. But then as they started to research it, they started to realize that actually it was this line that came from Madagascar. And then as they researched it even further, then they started to realize not only is it coming from Madagascar, it's actually this very specific population group that I think they were called like the boat people or something, who came over on boats from I think somewhere in like Indonesia or something, somewhere over in the islands of Southeast Asia, and came on boats over to Madagascar. And so they had this super unique mitochondrial DNA signature because of that. And so it was just really, really interesting. And, if you looked at the overall mitochondrial haplogroup, you would have gotten it wrong in what region you're looking at. So yeah, hopefully all that made sense. I got a little rambly there. Okay. Yeah, let's see. Ruby, I'm so sad I didn't get here until the end. I have so many questions about autoclusters, but need to rewatch the first part to not be redundant. Feel free to ask your questions. With my streams, well, I think a large amount of people do stay here the whole time. There's a lot of people that go in and out. So, even if you ask a question that's already been asked, I'll try to add something new to it or something. So feel free to go ahead. Granted, I did realize I've been streaming for over an hour and a half, so I'm not sure how much longer I'll go, but I'm kind of just flown. I'm rolling with it, rolling with it. Jose, if my middle sister is technically 10% North African through my heritage, would that lead to Sephardic Jewish heritage? Maybe not. I would probably lean towards most likely not, but it certainly is a possibility. But yeah, that's too little information. That's like asking, my sister got, 5% Italian. Does that mean that she's from, I don't know. I can't think of anything, but either way, yeah, it doesn't mean it, doesn't really indicate it. The only thing that you really have going on here is just that, yeah, North Africa, there were Jews there, but yeah, unless there's, an understanding of having Jewish ancestry or something more, going on, but just knowing 10% North African, that does not equate to Sephardic Jewish. Yeah. Okay, yeah. It's quite different. Turks from Western parts get more Greek or Italian, whereas Turks from East get more Middle Eastern results. But overall, I think admixture is useless for Turks. Yeah. Well, I did that one video reacting to those the Turk, the Lods, I don't remember all of them. I'm not going to try to repeat them, but that was an interesting one, and it was yeah. All right. Let's continue. Let's see. Diana, DNA tests are important, but doing the paperwork and tracing your ancestors are very important. You don't have a magical power, and only looking at your matches, you need to know your tree. 100%. It's just the basics of DNA testing. Your DNA test alone is not helpful. Just to get the basics of DNA testing, you have to have people to compare against. But then once you have people to compare against, then you do have to take it further, and you have to correlate that with the paper trail, with the records, and with the family trees. And one of the biggest difficulties, I'm just going to put this up so we're not staring at that same page the whole time. But one of the biggest difficulties a lot of people have with trying to figure out how they're related to their DNA matches is DNA matches that have no information. And one thing that I always suggest to people doing genetic genealogy is learn how to overcome that. And that's actually one of the number one skills it takes if you want to be an investigative genetic genealogist and work with law enforcement to identify violent perpetrators, or if you want to work for DNA Doe Project and identify unknown human remains, or if you want to be a search angel and you want to help adoptees identify their biological family. You need to learn how to look at a DNA match where they only provide a username and no family tree, no other information, and figure out their family tree just by a username or just by the name they give. Or if you testing through family tree DNA, you get their email. Basically just every little piece that you can utilize and then overcoming that. So it's 100% agree with this statement. It's all about combining everything together, for sure. Andrea, makes sense. You're talking to Myra. Yeah, everyone join my Discord. Join all this stuff for me. And I should also another shout out to say, if anyone wants more in-depth help from me, I am doing consultations. Send me an email. We'll set one up. I do charge for those. But it's a great way to do a Zoom call with me and sit down for a half hour, an hour, and go in depth in this stuff. And as well, I'm starting to take on some new research projects. So if you are interested in hiring me for a full-on project to research, I'm considering them. So I'm being a little picky with picking those just because, I can't take ones that are take up too much time. Yeah. Okay. Hasmana, good evening. I agree. DNA matches have really helped me. The tool connected me to a community in North Carolina I had no clue I was attached to. One surname opened the door, and now I'm in. That is awesome to hear. And yeah, that's really what this genetic genealogy stuff is about, and why I'm so in love with it is because with the paper trail, there's so much that we don't have. I mean, for one, all the lies in the paper trail from ancestors covering things up, but two, just history. Me coming from Jewish ancestry, the difficulties of that. With Haas Manning, I imagine Haas, you're in North Carolina, probably coming from an African-American community where your ancestors were enslaved, and you have to overcome the issues of them not being recorded, or half the time, the only times they're recorded is as property. So it's like you have all these issues that you've got to deal with just to learn the history. And then DNA gives us the tool to overcome all of that and make these discoveries that literally would have never been possible beforehand. Nope, Lumbee. Interesting. So you've got that North Carolina Lumbee. Very cool. I'm in North Carolina, so I've known some people with Lumbee ancestry. So interesting. But yeah, so still same thing. Just, it's all about using that DNA to overcome what we can't find in the paper trail, but we still have to utilize the paper trail and family trees with that DNA. But sometimes you do also have to make the leaps of logic and hypothesizing, and then, to try to actually solve some of this stuff. So, yeah. Let's see. Mark Van Alstine. Hi, Mr. Ross. I matched you and your mother on GEDmatch. How can I contact you? Thank you. You can always contact me through my Genie Vlogger email. I think my GEDmatch profiles are tied to an old email, so I wouldn't necessarily suggest contacting me there. I will say, unfortunately, I get a lot of messages from people who DNA match me or other family members of mine, because for one, I have a lot of family members on there, but also being Jewish, everybody who's Jewish is probably going to match me or one of my family members. And unfortunately, most of the times when I get emails from people, it'll be like, hey, we matched at this very low amount, very insignificantly. So unfortunately, because I get so many of those, I don't always respond to those. Because if I did, unfortunately, I'd basically spend hours a day. Remember, I have a lot of DNA profiles. But yeah, if you've got anything very interesting that you've it's or something, I usually do a quick read through every email at the very least. It's from through Julian Land. Okay, interesting. send me an email. I know I saw Julian's blah 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 blah. I saw Julian's presentation not too long ago, and I feel like he messaged me afterwards. I might not have gotten back to him. It's so difficult. It's so difficult keeping up with all these messages, especially because with genealogy, it's hard to write a genealogy message and not have at least a couple of paragraphs. So Drea, my latest DNA match adventure is this one match I'm convinced is on my maternal grandfather's side, except I just learned that several of his brothers or uncles had children out of wedlock. Interesting. Yeah, those ones are the fun ones to do, but difficult. So in my family, I found out my great-grandfather's brother had 2 children out of wedlock, and both within like a year of each other. And he was a Jewish guy, and both of the girls that he got pregnant were Catholic, which I was like, that's, 1920s Philly, just, I'm thinking like flappers and, partying it up and all, all that sort of stuff. So, and he was that was the character second great uncle of mine, the one who I talked about in a previous stream, got arrested for the Oliver Twist like scheme. And I'm still hoping I can find his mug shot. So I actually need to follow up with some of the people that had said they would look into that for me. So see if they still remember. Yeah, let's see. Okay, yeah, interesting stories. Yeah. All right. Yeah, we're at 147. Yeah. My dogs are sleeping. I'm chilling. Let's keep going. So if anyone has more questions. Oh, of course, I start stretching. My dogs are like looking at me like, what are you doing? You getting ready to do something for us? They want me to throw the BALL. Hopefully there's not been a lot of shaking sound. Every time I put my hand on the table, I'm worried it's going to make a noise with this mic. If you hear any tapping, let me know. Drea, how do you set expectations for what you'll find when you start a new project for someone? Well, when I do a project for people, not all the time, but most of the time I'll have a contract. And one of the clauses in that contract basically lays it out flat that, there's no guarantee that I'll be able to answer their question. There's no guarantee I'll be able to find what they're looking for. But the main thing, and this is what's really difficult for some genealogists, is you have to learn how to keep not necessarily a research log, but keep track of what you are doing. Because if you're going to come to a client and say, okay, I've done all this research, I found nothing, you can't just say I found nothing and present them with nothing. You need to say, I found nothing. Here's the work that I did, so that they know, at the very least, okay, well, we couldn't find anything in this record set. We couldn't find anything in this record set. We couldn't find anything in that record set. So you can at the very least show, because sometimes not finding a record can tell something just like finding a record. So I think I was talking about this a little bit earlier about how, when you're looking at records, if that record, that not every single event like that happened in that record set. So let's say births, not every birth in that area was recorded in the civil registers or whatever registers they have, then not finding the record isn't going to tell you much, because that record might not be there because they weren't born there, or that record might not be there just because it just wasn't recorded, even though they were born there. But for some record sets, that's not the case. If you don't find them in a certain record set, that is surprising. So like in the US, we have a lot like those. The censuses, draft records, if there's a man of a certain age and you don't find him in a draft record and he's in the US, something's going on. And so, with the ones that are like that, then that's what you want to show them or tell, there's always something you can figure out, even if it's from nothing technically. So it's not the greatest feeling when you come to a client and you're like, okay, I found nothing. But at the very least, when you have something to give them, even if you found nothing, something's better than nothing. But I mean, it does happen. And that, honestly, that's one of the reasons why I'm a little picky with cases is I'm trying to avoid the cases where it's like the brick wall cases, which I know that's a lot of the time why people want to hire a genealogist. But usually when it comes to those cases, you really need to find someone in a very specific niche of overcoming that issue. And there were some cases I took in my early years of working in genealogy that, the clients were happy and all of that, but I was very, I had a lot of anxiety and I was really nervous about it because I felt like I was a little over my head. And largely because it was stuff that was like, oh, I could figure out how to learn that. And then it's like, it's not always straightforward. Some population groups or record sets or certain research, things to research take a little bit more to figure out how to understand. So yeah. All right. Myra, my match to you, Jared, is via, okay. So yeah, that's my grandmother. So yeah, but yeah, like I said, I match everybody basically. All right, Haas Manning, a result on MyHeritage that shocked me was 3.5% Ashkenazi Jewish and 5% Middle Eastern. On Ancestry, I got 6% German and number percent North African. Thoughts? Interesting. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what to make out of that necessarily. With MyHeritage, I know that I've heard a lot of people get Ashkenazi Jewish readings on there that, it's like, what? That makes, I don't have that in my family. And the percentage doesn't make sense with everything I know. But I mean, with the Middle Eastern, and if both of those are, shocking to you, which knowing that you have Lumbee ancestry, that's going to be very different than both of those. And then Ancestry getting German and North African, there certainly is the correlations there between both of those populations. So I would say it's very difficult to say that it indicates anything specifically, because I think there's a lot of possibilities with this. But I certainly think that, if you started building out your family tree, yeah, I don't know. Because part of me wants to say that it could be indicative of Jewish ancestry. But then with Ancestry reading the German and the North African, those do have correlations to Jews. So yeah, I mean, it's really, really difficult to say. I would say the best thing really here would be to try to find your matches, or try to see if you can identify matches that are all Jewish or all Middle Eastern or all German or all North African, or largely that. Granted, that may be difficult, especially if, you have any of these other sorts of readings, and that would make sense with other parts of your ancestry, although I'm assuming not based on you saying this. But yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I think this is one of those things that it's really hard to figure out what it's really trying to say. And I feel like more than likely whatever's going on here might actually just really come down to the fact that they don't have enough information in their system. And it's almost like how if I go on Living DNA, the percentages are all over the place because they just don't have a Jewish defined population group. And so whatever population group this might be indicative of, you might not actually be getting that because they don't define it or anything close to it. And that's the best that each site can have. So I'm not 100% sure, but I mean, yeah, the thing that I would do in this case, start looking at those DNA matches and see, can I find a lot that are just Jewish or a lot, yeah. So yeah, hard for that one. Burke Sulek, do we really need DNA tests for genealogy? As far as I understand, useful DNA matches around 75 centimorgans. We can identify such people with paper trail also. When does small matches become useful? Well, do we really need DNA tests for genealogy? I would say 100% yes. Having solved many cases that would have literally been impossible without DNA testing, I would say that I do not agree with the fact that we can identify all, such people with the paper trail also. I'd say in a lot of cases, we can usually identify people through these paper trail, but it's not always correct. And on top of that, the DNA shows sometimes the paper trail is wrong. So not only do we have the help of it overcoming things that aren't in the paper trail, we also have the help of it overcoming the things that are incorrect in the paper trail. And then as well, the 75 centimorgan amounts, I wouldn't say that at all. In fact, hearing that to me, that sounds like something someone would say who deals only or largely in endogamous populations that they're researching. But I find, especially for non-endogamous populations, there are a lot of very useful matches that are under 75 centimorgans. Even more if you do have a good amount of DNA matches that are a little bit closer that you find, you can correlate those with your smaller matches and make even better use of those small matches. So, I mean, I've made discoveries with my endogamous population groups, like my Jewish profiles, that, you'd think, oh, Jewish profile, endogamous, that's going to be really difficult. But no, I used 50 centimorgan matches and 40 centimorgan matches. And I'm actually planning to do a video soon because I'm trying to start doing more videos about, not as much tutorial, but kind of like the cluster video I just did, talking about stuff and not, I tell you how to do it, but I'm not going to do it like a tutorial. Not like if you go and watch, Dana Leeds videos or Genealogy TV or something like that, where they're teaching you, okay, here's how we're doing it. But I'm going to do a video about how I use the shared match feature on Ancestry and the other sites as well. But how I use it to overcome the issues of endogamy, and by focusing on how much people are matching. And the base sets that I'm usually using for that are people as low as 30 centimorgans. So they can be useful. But when you are using matches with small amounts of DNA, the smaller amount of DNA shared, the harder it is to really know for sure, like, oh yeah, that's trustworthy. So yeah. All right. So I'm going to finish up with the last few questions here, and then I think I'm going to call it after about 2 hours. So yeah, let's keep going. Oh yeah, when can we say that small match is useful? What are the criteria for it? I don't know if there's necessarily a specific criteria for it. I mean, I guess maybe if you sat down and really thought about it, you could come up with a list of criteria for, how you can be more confident that a small match is useful. But I mean, there's all sorts of ways it can be useful. I mean, there are small matches that are literally useful for me just in the fact that their paper trail matches up with my paper trail, and we have shared ancestors. And even though it's a small match, the amount fits with what we know of the ancestry. And so, there's a little less confidence necessarily with it. But then we, as we get more cousins added in and we can correlate with them, then it becomes really useful. So I don't know exactly what I'd call this, and I actually maybe should come up with a terminology for it. But basically what you can do in genealogy to make use of these small matches is, I have my cluster of closer matches. So like my second cousins and third cousins, and they match me at a good amount. But then when we look at how all of us match all these different fourth cousins of ours, these more distant cousins, we're matching them at very small amounts. But when we see all of those cousins matching each other and confirming their relationships, it's like you confirm up. So it's like I have my first cousins. They DNA match. That confirms my grandparents. Then my second cousins confirms my great-grandparents. Then my third cousins confirms my second great-grandparents. And so now we're at a length where DNA starts getting into the very low amounts, typically, very much under 75 centimorgans. Well, with my fourth cousins, I can't easily, it's not as easy to confirm, but I can see that they're matching a lot of us at small amounts. But then I look at my fourth cousins, and well, they have first cousins that's tested that have confirmed their grandparents, and second cousins that confirm their third great grandparents, and third cousins that confirmed up to their third great grandparents. So we've got both branches confirming each other with all of their close matches, and then we're all also matching each other at these smaller amounts. So now we have very strong confidence because we know their family tree is correct. We know our family tree is correct. We have the paper trail correct connecting us. And so, it does take a lot in a sense, but I feel like with a lot of genetic genealogy and a lot of genealogy, it can take a lot. So yeah. All right. Let's see. Kara, I am half Sweden, half Malaysian Indian. I have several matches, 9 to 15 centimorgans, that share same regions, but we share either 1 to 3%. Excuse me, but we share either 1 to 3% of the same regions or none at all. Could there be a connection? So when you say that share same regions, you mean like share the same regions of ancestry. Oh, and you're saying either 1 to 3%. Don't focus on the ad. Don't focus too much on the admixture. I would not focus on the admixture here at all. I would look at the admixture just to get an idea of, is there some correlation in some way? But we share either 1 to 3% of the same regions or none at all. Look at, you say same regions. Are you saying same regions as in we share the same readings? Or are you looking at it as on a larger scale? So, you say Sweden, Malaysian Indian. Yeah, but either way, not getting too much into it. We're also looking at very small matches, 9 to 15 centimorgans. You're looking at some of the smallest matches you can get. And I know I was just talking about how useful small matches can be, but they get less and less useful and less confidence goes down. And once you get under 20 centimorgans, I'd say that's where you start getting into real difficult territory. There are some projects you can look into of people that have made use of small matches like this that might help you in getting an idea of, comparisons and all of that. But like, I especially would not focus much on the same regions, because think about this. You have matches where you're sharing 9 to 15 centimorgans of DNA. You have not 7. I'm thinking 700,000 SNPs. But you have, tons and tons and tons of DNA. What is it? 7,000 something total centimorgans technically. And so, 1 to 3%. Yeah. I don't know where I'm going with it. I think I'm starting to get towards the end, just getting towards the end of the stream after 2 hours. But yeah, could there be a connection? You're sharing DNA, so there's probably some sort of a connection at some point. But it's going to be hard to make use of it and confirm that. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. I matched with most of the core group of Lusada Barrow group, trying to figure out how and match up with the last 200 years through my mother. Okay. Yeah. When it comes to Julian Land's, project and all of that, I've watched, I saw his talk about it. I've, been involved in some ways, but it's something where, I haven't necessarily seen anything from it necessarily that I've taken away that I'm like, okay, I can utilize that my own. So I get, I'll keep an eye out for that email and see. But if we're, match up with the last 200 years through your mother, well, from your mother to 200 years ago, that's a lot of generations to go through and figure things out. Especially if you're going off of just DNA. Well, you're going to have to figure out a way to get that paper trail back there to figure that out for sure. So I'll keep an eye out for the email. But yeah, I'll see what we can do. Yeah. Okay. Jen W. I think I'm going to answer this one as basically the last question. Is Newfoundland DNA affected by endogamy? Now, I actually do have some experience with Newfoundland DNA, or not Newfoundland DNA. Excuse me. Close to Newfoundland, I have Nova Scotia. Experience with Nova Scotia DNA, and in my experience with Nova Scotia, and I think Newfoundland is even worse, there is endogamy. Especially depending on the community. So like Nova Scotia, I did the research on Matt Baker's family tree from the channel Useful Charts, and his family was on the island Tanacook. Small island. It's beyond endogamous, honestly. It's like, I would call that a pedigree collapse pedigree collapse, double relation nut house of an island. I don't want to say that in a negative sense, but basically there's a lot of craziness going on with those family trees. And I think in one of the episodes I even show that like Matt Baker descends from his ancestor Johannes Becker, where the Baker name comes from, like 9 different ways. And that's just the ways we could prove, possibly related in other ways too. Or descends from, specifically, like descends from him. So with with Newfoundland being an island as well, I think that they experience a lot of similar stuff, but I'm not 100% sure. So, in both Newfoundland and Nova Scotia. Well, I think with Nova Scotia, it depends on what side of Nova Scotia you're on. With Tanacook, that's around the Lunenburg, and Lunenburg is like the center front, like east coast of it. And there's other parts of it that's like, the area that's connected to the mainland. I'm going to pull up a map here. Hold on 1 second. Okay, yeah. So where it's connected to like New Brunswick, it's like over there. I imagine it's probably a lot less endogamy, but like, yeah, like Lunenburg. And then if you look at there's there we go. So we've got Lunenburg over here, and then we've got Big Tanacook Island, and then we've got Little Tanacook somewhere. There we go. But Big Tanacook's where everyone is, and this is where Matt Baker's family was from. So they had intense endogamy, but my understanding is there's a lot of endogamy, especially in this part of Nova Scotia. Then you've got this side, which is much closer to the U.S. areas, although I have no idea how they interact with each other. But then here, it connects right to New Brunswick. So, yeah. So, okay. Azores, Portugal happens the same. Interesting. I mean, it makes sense. Definitely makes a lot of sense. And then I imagine too with what are the Canary Islands? What are the other islands? Why can't I think of it? It's like, oh my gosh, it's like right on the tip of my tongue. I don't know, maybe someone knows what I'm talking about, but either way, yeah. Yeah, Azores, Portugal. That's all right. So I got thrown off there. You can definitely, I feel like you can tell when I'm starting to hit the ends of my streams where it's like my brain's just not functioning quite at the same capacity. So yeah. So found out related to 3 of his grandparents, 24 ways to his father. Yeah. So I'm guessing you also are a Tanacook descendant as well. So yeah, and as a send off, I'm gonna start doing this now as part of the streams, as a send off to everybody. I'm gonna send you to that video from Matt Baker that I did on Matt Baker's family. Let's see, which one is it? I think is it that one? No, it's not that one. Yeah, it's this one. 250 years of Nova Scotia. So yeah, this will be the video to go watch after the stream's done. And then just like I did last stream, if you go and watch there, be sure to comment, come and hear from the stream. And if you see anyone commenting that, like that as well. And then and if you want to share that around, I would absolutely love that as well. Any support I appreciate greatly. So all right, with that, thank you everybody for joining today. I really appreciate it as always. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your Fridays and your weekends. And I will see you here next week. So you all have a wonderful